Welcome back, everyone. Ready for more Gabriel night? I am. We have a lot of stuff here to play with.
The Voodoo Shrine is filled with items that both fascinate Gabriel and also make his skin crawl. A flyer advertising Magenta Moonbeam, a local voodooienne. Her parlor is on the corner of Orleans and Dauphine.
All right. That gives us a new location to go to eventually.
Well, that looks sacrilegious. Wonder who that poor bastard was.
We have some wine.
A waste of some perfectly good wine, if you ask me. This coffin is so small.
It's got a midget in it.
It wouldn't be much of a voodoo museum without a voodoo doll.
It's an electrical switch.
What does this do?
Turn that thing off.
Oh, sorry.
We have air conditioning, you see.
Yeah, I see.
Look, I pissed that snake off in the upper right corner over here. He was freaking the fuck out. A wishing stump.
An official voodoo wishing stump. Rub it and make a wish, a card says.
Funny, I say the same thing to women.
You beat me to it.
I wish Molly Getty were mine forever. Really, I mean it.
What was that?
Oh, nothing.
That must be Marie Laveau.
Who's that hoe?
A very large, very formidable looking snake is secured in a plexiglass cage. The snake is too far away.
Alright, let's talk to fucking Whitey over
Ask you
here.
a few questions.
That is why I am here.
What can you tell me about voodoo?
Historical voodoo, or the voodoo currently practiced in the city.
Both.
Tell me about historical voodoo.
Very well. I will start at the beginning, Mr. Knight, and will go on from there at your prompting.
Sounds good.
As you may know, voodoo is a grassroots religion, formed by the mixing together of many different African tribal religions and Anglo religions, such as Catholicism or Protestantism. In other words, it is a religion born of the African slave trade. But African slaves were imported not only by the United States, but also into the West Indies, where the French and Spanish ran plantation islands. Prior to 1803, the New Orleans area was owned by France. The French Creole in those days owned many African slaves. But the Creole did not permit their slaves to gather, giving no chance for voodoo to breed here natively. The Creole also knew enough about the corrupted pagan practices of the West Indies slaves to ban the importings of slaves from that region.
So how did voodoo come to New Orleans?
After the Louisiana Purchase, American legislators relaxed regulations. Slaves were permitted to gather. The Americans also removed the ban on West Indies slaves. Around the same time, a slave revolt occurred in Santo Domingo, what is now Haiti. Between the lifting of the ban and the Haitian Revolt, West Indies slaves began pouring into New Orleans. Some of them were free people of color, freed or escaped slaves. Some came with their white owners who were fleeing from the revolt.
What happened when the West Indies slaves got here?
They brought voodoo with them. The native slaves were more than enthusiastic about embracing it. It gave them power, Mr.
See, slavery wasn't that bad. It got voodoo. Invented voodoo.
Among the first meeting places were the Bayou St. John and the shore of Lake Pontchartrain. The early voodoos were heavy snake worshippers, worshipping the one they called the Great Zombie.
Blaming the U.S. Meanwhile, you got them French and all those other motherfuckers out there doing the same shit.
Tell me more about historical voodoo.
By 1817, the voodoo activities were beginning to cause fear among the white slave owners. An ordinance was passed to forbid slave gatherings except in designated public areas at designated times. The time was Sunday afternoons, and the place, Congo Square. The slaves and free people of color gathered to dance simulations of their voodoo dances, right in sight of Creole society. Of course, they also continued to meet in private for the real thing.
Tell me more.
Gotta exhaust these options.
Voodoo.
There were a variety of kings and queens at first, voodoo priests and priestesses. But from about 1830, a single power emerged. This was a voodoo queen named Marie Laveau. Marie Laveau ruled voodoo in New Orleans for many years.
It's the secret voodoo lady.
Tell me about current voodoo.
Many people think of voodoo in terms of magic spells or gree-gree. That kind of practice is actually called hoodoo and is only a part of true voodoo. Voodoo, the religion, has a strong following in New Orleans. In fact, it is growing quite rapidly. There are several voodoo churches or temples in the city, and others all across the United States. African Americans see it as a tradition all their own. Whites, and there are many in the religion, are attracted to it because they think it is exotic. I personally am more interested in the history of voodoo. Some of the new movements are copying Haitian or even African voodoo, but it is the voodoo of New Orleans that I find so intriguing.
Tell me about Marie Laveau.
There were actually two Marie Laveaus, mother and daughter. Most people thought they were the same woman. Her continued youth added to the mystique. The original, the mother, was also known as Widow Paris. It was she that began the empire.
Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
The Laveau tomb, where one or both of the Maries are believed to be buried, is in St. Louis Cemetery No. 1. It is a popular shrine for practitioners and tourists alike. I myself take tours through the cemetery on a regular basis.
Really? Do you have any running this week?
No, but the cemetery is open to the general public as well.
Cemeteries are fun.
What exactly is hoodoo?
Hoodoo refers to magic folk traditions of the South. Hoodoo is a bastard of voodoo. Many of the gree-gree are similar, but hoodoo does not have the religious aspects of voodoo.
What do you know about the voodoo murders?
The killings in the newspaper. I know they have nothing to do with true voodoo in New Orleans.
What do you think in New Orleans?
Notice how they're graying out some of the context now, the
as far as I am concerned.
choices that we have here. Instead of disappearing, I think that means we can come back and ask the stuff later and they'll open back up.
Do you know anything about snakes?
You have perhaps noticed the museum snake, Mr. Knight? They are beautiful creatures. Do you not agree? And the tourists seem to associate them with voodoo.
Let's try it.
What makes you think the voodoo murders aren't being done
Guess
by
that means you asked once.
Voodoo is a popular boogeyman, Mr. Knight, especially in New Orleans. Anyone can pretend to use it, just as anyone can pretend to be a black belt in karate. And for the same reason, to intimidate. I know voodoo in this city, Mr. Knight, and believe me, it is not about killing. Even the police have stated that the killings have nothing to do with local voodoo.
So you know nothing about the voodoo murders case?
I neither know nor care to know, Mr. Knight. My only possible interest is in how it might affect the public's attitude towards the museum. So far, it has not been an issue. No one has even had the bad taste to bring it up. Until you, that is.
Alright, so yeah, goes gray means you've clicked it once, and when it disappears, you've exhausted all options.
What is it about
That's a nice
New Orleans
feature.
that you so admire?
It has a real culture of its own, Mr. Knight. Amid the horrid blandness that is Americana, New Orleans alone has a voice.
Spoken like a true Norlinian. Is this snake yours? Do you use it in your practice of voodoo?
I admire the spirit of the snake, Mr. Knight. But snakes like the museums can be quite dangerous to handle.
You didn't really answer my question.
I think I did, Mr. Knight.
Are you sure you can't tell me anything about voodoo?
I've given you as much detail as I can, Mr. Knight.
Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
When the widow Paris began to practice, there were many voodooians in the city.
Voodooians!
In 1830, she was voodoo queen of all New Orleans. The widow Paris was a hairdresser for rich Creole ladies. She also paid household servants to spy for her. Between the two, she knew everything about everyone who mattered in New Orleans. She was not above using her information to appear psychic, to intimidate, or even to blackmail.
You sound as though you admire her.
For a black woman in the mid-1800s to gain power is an incredible thing, Mr. Knight. However she achieved it.
Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
She kept a pet snake, danced with it too. She held traditional voodoo ceremonies out by the lake. She took herself seriously, very seriously. But she was not above selling tickets for her events to curiosity seekers. She was not above using voodoo any way she could to make money. That is for certain. But if she had been in another line of work, in another age, that would have been interpreted as entrepreneurial genius rather than a sign of fraudulence.
Hey, you don't need to convince me. I admire anyone that can actually make a living. Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
It was
A lot of info on Marie Laveau here.
The voodoo that is truly and uniquely the voodoo of New Orleans. She invented hundreds, if not thousands, of spells, potions, charms, and incantations.
She a bad bitch.
These form the basis of the modern practice, not to mention the folk tradition of hoodoo.
Tell me more about Marie.
Her daughter, Marie Glapion, took over when widow Paris got old. Most people thought it was the same Marie Laveau. Both Maries encouraged that point of view. The widow Paris died in 1881. Marie Glapion had been reigning a long time by then. After the death of the widow Paris, other voodoo queens surfaced, and by 1890, the cult was fragmented again. Marie Glapion just sort of faded away.
Tim.
You have heard everything.
There's the
about
achievement.
the voodoo that a layman might expect to understand.
For exhausting all the voodoo options.
So how's the museum business?
Those who truly seek to understand are few, Mr. Knight. But even one can be an audience.
Sounds about like my shop. Tell me about yourself.
Me?
Yes, if you don't mind.
What is it you wish to learn?
We're a writer, so we ask a lot of fucking questions.
Why did you open a voodoo museum?
The subject has fascinated me all my life, and I wanted to help preserve the cultural heritage it represents.
What are your own religious beliefs?
My beliefs are too personal and too complex to discuss with a layman, Mr. Knight.
What kind of background in voodoo do you have?
Let us just say I cut my teeth on it, Mr. Knight. It is in my blood.
Do you do anything besides run the museum?
No, the museum does not make me a rich man. But my material needs are simple. I prefer to focus on my one true interest in life.
Actually, I can't think of a thing.
Then let us
All right. I think I got what we need from here.
Up there, Mr. Knight.
Got some new areas. St. Louis Cemetery, the Moonbeam Residence. We're gonna head to the Dixieland drugstore.
Hello? Huh?
Holy shit, it's a Yorkie. It's Chewbacca. The bitch has my dog.
Bonjour, Monsieur Walker.
Yeah, he's that small.
¿Cómo se va? How you be feeling today?
Well, I'll tell you, Mr. Walker. I'm certain someone's buried a sleep knot bag somewhere.
Imagine how small that dog looks against that old woman, and then imagine the game hoarder carrying that same dog.
Don't need some easy
It's fucking great.
then, huh?
Do you think that would help? I do hope you're right. I said 3 rosaries this morning for Our Lady's intervention.
Rosary good, sure enough, but you burn them candles too, boy, you gonna whip any no-sleep gree-gree, I tell you for sure.
Very well, Mr. Walker. Put them on my account and send them around to my house. Oh, and there's another thing. I didn't catch her at it, but I know. Mrs. Lefebvre put stomachache powder in my tea at the last meeting of the Creole Grand Dame. I've been in misery.
Now you put 9 pinheads up in the little box. Add a pinch of graveyard dust, put it up under her front post step. That'll turn the trick back on Miss Lefebvre, and she be the one with the bellyache. I got the pins of dust right here if you want them.
If the Blessed Virgin will grant me her protection, I'll be safe from these practitioners of evil.
Oui, madame. Though, don't hurt to be proactive neither now, does it?
Naturellement, monsieur. Merci beaucoup.
Mais non, madame. It's nothing. Au revoir.
Au revoir, Monsieur Walker.
All right. Got a sign here on the counter.
The sign says, Special St. John's Eve Lagnia. Free bottle of Lover Come Back to Me oil or Master Gambling oil with every purchase over $50.
Lagnia. My French is lousy, but everyone in New Orleans knows what that means. A little something extra.
A little something extra.
The poster advertises a voodoo play from last fall.
All kinds of interesting things around here. Look at this alligator
The
mask.
appears to be made from a real crocodile head. To get the mask, Gabriel would have to buy it.
Hi there. Is this your store?
This the Dixieland drugstore. And I own it. Me. Name's Walker. Willie Walker.
Do you know anything about animal masks?
The only one left is Willie Jr. over there. The old crocodile. He's sort of a mascot now, him.
That customer of yours, the little old lady.
Customer.
The woman I saw in here, Madame Casino, you called her.
I don't talk about my customers to men who come in off the street.
What do you know about the voodoo murders? What did you say?
Nothing. Them killings have nothing to do with my shop, monsieur.
What can you tell me about St. John's Eve?
It's the biggest night of the year in voodoo.
What goes on exactly?
I couldn't say.
About Willie Jr. Would you be willing to let him go?
Maybe. For $100.
100? You gotta be kidding.
Me and Willie Jr. are very close now. I couldn't part with him for less.
What did you mean when you said Caprice encore?
I didn't say that.
You did. I heard you say it.
You heard wrong, monsieur. I said no such thing.
I don't think you telling the truth there, brother.
It's important that I talk to Madame Casino. You see, I'm doing some research and...
I can't tell you anything about her.
This is a game where you really need to exhaust all the dialogue, because if you don't unlock certain dialogue through the conversations, you won't be able to continue. So you might as well just ask it all. So we're going to go down the lines and ask it all.
You think I'm stupid? This is a voodoo shop. Look at all this stuff.
These is novelties, curiosities. If people want to think they magic, it's not my concern, you know?
Are you telling me that you own a voodoo shop, but you know nothing about voodoo practices?
Ça n'est pas affaire blanc.
What does that mean?
Call me something.
You should mind your own business, monsieur.
Call me white boy. Call me cracker.
Look, I'm researching voodoo for a book.
I don't have your
I know
answer,
French, bitch.
me. You want to buy something, monsieur?
What do you think of New Orleans?
I live here all my life, me.
What do you think of New Orleans?
If you're not from around here, monsieur, you should sign up for some tours.
Do you know anything about snakes?
What kind of snakes?
It's a nice low rumbling thunder outside, so it's great atmosphere while I play this game.
Boas. So I've heard.
Really? Do you have one?
Are you crazy? What would I want with a python?
What do you know about...
Marie? She's somebody from the old
More
days.
Marie
Them
Laville.
old folk tales. The tourists eat it up, no?
What else do you know about...
I don't know much, monsieur. Someone at the Voodoo Museum can tell you all about her.
What...
I don't know much, monsieur.
What...
So that one doesn't disappear.
Would you take 50 for Willie Jr.?
Don't insult me, monsieur. The price is $120.
What? You said you'd sell it for 100 before.
You misheard, monsieur. The price was always 120.
Ah, come on with that shit.
Would you take 50 for Willie Jr.?
Don't insult me, monsieur. The price is $120.
What? You said you'd sell it for 100 before.
You misheard, monsieur. The price was always 120.
Mind if I ask?
Ask what you...
I don't think there's... well, let's
Tell me
ask him
about
about himself in the chat
My
then.
name's
Just to
Willie
make sure we got it all.
I own the place.
How did you get into this kind of business?
Now, why should I discuss
I don't want to
my
get stuck
business
because
with
we don't
you,
have the
man?
conversation open correct. Chat.
So, this is a voodoo store, huh?
Voodoo? No, man. This is a curio shop. The things you see here are from local folklore. None of it real, I tell you for sure.
What about all these magic oils and powders you're selling? Aren't they a part of voodoo?
Read the label, man. We make no claims. Sold as curio only. It mean what it say, no? These are novelties, not voodoo.
The shelf holds containers of dried items, flowers, grasses, and black cat bones.
What the fuck?
On this shelf are super concentrated fixing oils and a rib cage. Gabriel
A rib
really doesn't want
cage?
to ask.
She sounds just as fucking surprised as I do. think we're good here for now. All right, let's see. Police department. The soundtrack on this is amazing. It's awesome. Museum, the Moonbeam residence. Let's go check out the St. Louis Cemetery. Sounds intriguing. Right off the bat, I want to pick up this brick. We got some strange sketchings that are very obvious right in front of us. Whenever you see something like that, you want to immediately try to put it in your sketchbook.
I want a copy of these strange marks.
69! Alright, so we got those for later.
Food, trinkets, and more unsettling things have been left at Marie Laveau's tomb as offerings from believers.
Hello there. Got a sec?
Go ahead. These folks ain't in no hurry.
Do you know anything about Marie Laveau?
Sure. She was the voodoo queen of New Orleans, a powerful voodooian and a powerful sorceress. Believers still come to her tomb, you know. They write secret marks on the walls, leave offerings. Then there's the tourists. They come out of curiosity. As a matter of fact, that big Dr. John fella from that voodoo museum, he's here at least once a day. But Marie Laveau's tomb isn't the only one the believers visit and make markings and leave offerings at.
You said there were other mock tombs?
Yep. I've seen bull hearts left on tombs and a nest of vulture feathers, plates of peas and corn green. Animal parts, human parts even, it look like. Male parts, if you get my meaning. And this is one of the great family crypts, mind you. I'd have them types just pick a spot and stick to it.
Alright, 71 motherfucking points, and we have a lot of other stuff that we can talk to him about, but I think we're going to save that for later. Alright, let's, we have access to, let's see. Oh, the Getty Mansion. Alright, we're gonna pick up the next episode at Malia's Getty's Mansion here. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.